Hey, Catalyst crew. Welcome to Catalyst Corner, episode 115. I'm Evan.
I'm Jim.
And we've got a lot on the plate today. We're going to talk about some movies. We're going to talk about some stuff that's going on in the comic book world. A lot of pop culture stuff going on today. So, without further ado, how you doing, Jim?
I am doing okay. How about yourself?
Good. It's been, we've been busy.
Yeah.
Got a couple of new printers on the way,
nice.
So excited about
yeah,
that.
They look really cool.
Gonna be nice to expand the product line and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just did a restock at the mall today because that's doing real well. Getting a lot of support over there, and
big thanks to all the people that come out to support that.
Yeah, awesome to see the support.
Yeah,
and right now we're kind of in the bulk mode because we're getting into we're in the middle of the summer right now, and once the summer's over, it's convention season and holiday season.
Right.
So we're really going to be
things ramp up significantly.
Yeah. So we got a lot of cool things going on. We're making a bunch of masks for the conventions.
Yep.
A lot of different art prints. Once we get those new printers, we're going to have a lot of cool stuff going on there. So pretty good overall.
Yeah.
So as always, what have you watched?
Okay. So I got two.
Okay, I have two as well.
One I think was okay. One I didn't like.
Okay.
So the one that I thought was okay. You ever see this movie, The Damned?
I don't think so.
So I think it's a Hulu movie, right? I think it was possibly made for Hulu, right? And it's one of these ones that we talk about that we like as far as it's very atmospheric, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't know exactly where it takes place, right? But it's got to be somewhere in Europe, right? Somewhere like that, right?
Yeah.
Very desolate, cold, right?
Right, like stuff you couldn't fake sort of thing, right? Like you have to film it somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like really cold, really isolated, right? And there's like this fishing group. There's like 12 people.
I wanted to watch it. I saw the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in like a it's a fishing village or whatever, and there are people like stuck on the boat or something out there.
Yeah. So what happened? There's a woman who's in charge because her husband was in charge, but he dies, right? So now she's in charge of this fishing group, and there's like 6 or 7 men that do it, and like one other woman who kind of is like the cook, right? And they're just isolated. They do their thing. They're just trying to survive, right? And out in the ocean, they see she sees a ship, and it starts to sink. And so
right, and you can hear like the people screaming and everything.
And they're like, oh, we got to go help them, and they're like, no, we can't. We don't have the means to support that many more people. We just got to unfortunately, we have to let them die.
Right.
And so they do. And so what they think then happens is because that happens, they get a curse, right? So there's all of a sudden this supernatural being that's now going to curse them. And
for not intervening.
For not helping,
okay.
Right? So this was like this curse that this ship has now brought upon this fishing village. And so what happens is they start all going a little crazy, right? And everybody thinks it's, they can see this entity, this spirit, right? And it's basically making them insane, and they're starting to, and for the most part, either kill each other or kill themselves, right? Whatever it might be.
Right. Kind of has almost that Lovecraft element, right? Like the madness is creeping in, you're seeing things, and either you're going to you're either going to hurt yourself or the people around you.
So basically, they're just one by one, that keeps on happening, and the woman, not that does like the cooking, kind of explained to the other woman who's the leader, hey, this is this curse, and the only way to get rid of it, to kill it, is you have to burn it, right? So, they keep on, like, the food gets taken, right? So they're on the verge of death, right? There's starvation, right? They don't have the means to support themselves, right? There's not enough people anymore to assist. And so the main woman goes to, she's in her house. She thinks that she sees the entity, right? And then she's gonna kill this entity, right? So she shoots it and then burns her house down. And it's like, okay, I've taken care of the problem. But then she starts having flashbacks of, this was just one of the guys from the boat that got there and made it onto land and was basically, just trying to survive himself. And he's like, hey, I need to survive, so therefore I was taking your food and I was, so it's like, it ends up being like, was this, what was it, all in her mind? Did these people really go mad? You know what I mean? So it has this ambiguity of
we don't actually know
what actually happened. Which one was real, right? Was it that you know what I mean? Like the guy was, they all thought this was an evil entity, or was it that she had this epiphany and that this was a guy from the boat, and is that the manifestation of maybe not helping, right? And now that you think that's that. And so at the end, there's only like 3 of them left, right? And her house is burnt down, right? So I think that, basically they leave themselves to die because there's nothing
there's no
else.
way to survive in those elements without.
So it wasn't great, but it was interesting. But cinematography, the atmospheric nature of it,
right? You must have
extremely
had that
good.
Sort of dread.
Yeah, there was, because you're getting, sometimes you'll just get that quiet where you can hear like the wind whistling, and then you can hear little noises, right? And it grips you, right? You're in it, and so again, it wasn't. And it's a pretty short movie too. I think it was only like an hour and a half.
Pretty tight.
Yeah. So not a bad watch. I wouldn't, again, not great, but it wasn't bad.
And I got to tell you, I like that, because I'm seeing this more and more with horror movies, is that they're giving you those scenes where you just sit with the silence of whatever the nature is. Like A Violent Nature had that, where it's just you're sitting in the woods, and you can hear the woods after something horrific, and it gives you a second to sort of digest it, and what should be a serene sort of scene is not.
Right. And then, you can feel, that like sometimes she'll look behind her, right, and she'll see the figure, and then she'll look back and it's gone, right? And you can feel that. You could feel that somebody watching you type of element as you're
paranoia, right? The madness creeping in and things,
and you can feel it. So I thought they did a well done movie as far as those things go. Again, it's not the greatest movie overall, but it wasn't bad. It was a pretty decent watch.
Right. Sometimes with these atmospheric movies too, it's more about the ride.
Right. And I think this was what this was. More about the ride, more about the scenery than the overall. I mean, the story wasn't great, but it wasn't a bad story either.
And the ride is more how you feel as you're watching it. Right. And if you can get those feelings of paranoia and dread and I guess horror ultimately, then it's doing its job.
Right. Absolutely.
So good to know. I thought the trailer really it's on my list because, again, I really like those movies that give you that sense of dread.
Right.
And I think it's, a lot of times you're either going to just get a horror movie, horror thriller, things like that, instead of just getting, a ride like The Witch. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I feel really uncomfortable while I'm watching this. And it's like, maybe it's not the greatest story, but the ride is what you're paying for a movie.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah. Now let me tell you what I didn't like.
Yeah.
Sinners.
You didn't like Sinners?
I didn't like Sinners.
That is a shame.
And let me tell you why
Sinners.
I didn't like Sinners.
Yeah, hit me with why.
Because I thought it was a vampire movie. And the vampire element of the movie was the worst part of the movie. And that's what I went in for. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that was the worst part of the entire movie, was the vampire elements of it. But that's what I thought it was.
So I guess if I understand where you're coming from then, because I think if you go into Sinners blind, right, I think you have a much better chance of enjoying it, because again, the first half, it's almost three different movies, right? The first half is kind of this period piece where we're introducing the characters and everything. Then you have the middle half, which is the vampire movie, and then the end half and ultimately the ending, which is kind of just the summation of everything.
The thing is, if I wanted to see like a racial tension movie, I would have watched that. If I wanted to watch the history of black music, I would have watched that. But I didn't. That's not what I wanted to watch.
I think
when I went into this movie.
I get what you're saying. I think if you go into it expecting like a vampire movie, you're not going to get that.
Right, and that's why I didn't like it, because that's what I thought I was signing up for.
Yeah, okay.
I did think it was about a half hour too long. I thought there was a lot of filler in there that really didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, there were certain scenes I think they could have cut out.
And I didn't like, what I really didn't like, and this is what ultimately, because again, the vampire part of it, which is what I wanted out of the movie, I thought was the worst part of the movie. And here there's 5 people.
Well, it was the least fleshed out part of the movie, right?
But it was so unbelievable. Like, it was so unbelievable and so rushed that I wish it wasn't there. I wish it wasn't a part of it, because I think it ruined the movie overall. Like, if you took that out, it might have been, to me, a better movie. But what I didn't like is, here you have about 5 people taking on like 20 vampires, and they took them on like there was no problem. Strength-wise, they were equally matched. You couldn't, the vampires couldn't overpower people. It didn't seem like they wrote that part of it with any intent to make it a strong part of the movie.
No, I think you have to look at Sinners as a whole more so than the sum of its parts to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you start, like you said, if you start really focusing on the vampire element of it, there was a field full of vampires that should have easily been able to stop those 5 people.
Right.
Especially once they were invited in.
Yeah, I mean,
that should have been the end of it.
And you could say, oh, well, they had a gun, but it's like, come on, you're shooting one, 4 others can come from behind and take you out. Like, it was not believable.
I think if you're just going into that expecting a vampire movie, you're going to be disappointed.
Right, and that was my issue, is because that's what I went into it thinking that it was, and that was the worst part of the movie. The other parts were done well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they weren't done well. It's just not what I wanted to watch.
For a vampire. I get it. I think there's a lot of good in it too, though. I think there's a lot of subtext with the main vampire being Irish and everything, and I think there's Ryan Coogler, not bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying. I think if you're going into Sinners going, okay, I'm ready for a fucking vampire movie, you're going to be disappointed, because it's not, again, it's one of those things where it's black culture, black music, colonization, racism, that are really the themes, that are wrapped up into all of this. For me personally, I thought it was an interesting film. I'm not opposed to them throwing the vampires in, but I think if you really dial into the vampire element of it, there are holes in that. There is that, how are these 5 people getting through the night sort of thing, especially where, the whole lead up to that has been very grounded. So it's like, it's not a dusk till dawn situation where it's like a Tarantino cartoon sort of thing where it's like, here are our heroes, you know what I mean? It's more hey, you set me in a grounded world, you've introduced these vampires, you've shown us that they're they have superpowers, they're very strong, etc., how are these 5 really getting through all of this, and I think I'd be more forgiving, if you wanted to say that the kid was able to use the guitar or whatever to stop him because, ultimately he was the target. All right, I can get through that, but I think just overall the 5 of them fighting off a field of vampires is not believable.
Right.
So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. And and the thing that the other part of it, and again, spoilers, it's been out for a long time, so if you haven't, but it's like, so the one brother gets turned into a vampire and the other brother lets him live, right? Now, if the other brother's intent, right, was, now I get the whole thing, hey, I'm going to go be with my the love of my life just died because she didn't want to become a vampire, so she had me kill her, and my child died very young, so now I'm going to go be with them. But you could have also got turned into a vampire to go kill all of the racists.
Yeah, but you're asking for like a blade.
Well, right, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, but he didn't want it. He didn't want it. His brother was essentially gone. His wife was gone. His family was gone.
I mean,
done.
it's just, right. It's just like there was some things, again, that's a little nitpicky on my part, whatever. But I, again, didn't mind all the other pieces. They were well done, and the acting was very good. It's just, it wasn't what I wanted, and so I didn't want. And nothing against those other things, those other elements. That's not what I wanted, though. I didn't want that movie. That's not the movie I was going in for. And so when I got that more so than the vampire movie, which was what I wanted to go in for, that's why I say I don't like it, because the one thing I wanted was the worst part of the movie that could have really been taken out and really didn't need to be in that movie to make that movie as good as it was.
So I think for me, the reason why Sinners is so important is because, it's a horror movie that doesn't, it's not blaxploitation,
right.
It's not comedy,
right?
And ultimately, again, I think as a whole, it's a good movie. I think if you, when the credits roll, depending on what your expectations are, I don't think you feel like, this was a terrible film.
No, it's not
right.
a bad film at all.
I think for me, I want to see, that's the thing I feel like we're always talking about, where instead of race swapping or gender swapping or trying to check the box or whatever, here we have a completely original, minority written, led, directed movie in the horror space, which is, again, not generally something we see,
right,
that is doing incredibly well. And so to me, do I think the weakest part of Sinners were the vampires? For sure. And it's not even the vampires themselves. It's just the fact that, the characters were able to...
Yeah, it's that portion of the story that's weak.
But again, I think if you start diving into some of the elements of that portion of it, right? I thought the fact that he was Irish and there are he's talking about the fact that he's probably 400, 500, 600 years old at this point. The Irish were also, at least in America, a minority group that was treated kind of shitty. Not the same as African American, obviously.
Sure.
But again, it's almost that, they shared sort of the prejudice, right? But he's still coming after this and still trying to colonize and steal the music of the African Americans to make it his own. Which again, I think there is a lot of, good stuff once you get past the surface level of it. But again, I think if you're just going in for a fun vampire movie, that's not what this is.
Right, exactly. So I mean, that again, I will by no means say that it was a bad movie. It's not a bad movie, by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not what I wanted.
No, it's not a fun vampire. Like, that's not what you're signing up for.
Right.
You're signing up for, you're going to get hit with culture. You're going to get hit with, racial tensions. You're going to get hit with, colonization and prejudice and struggle and all those things. And, it's all wrapped into a vampire movie.
Right.
But, again, I think it's... To me, I'm glad it did well. I'm glad it rated out very high. I want to see more stuff like that, I think.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I think if it gives Coogler a platform to kind of continue making movies of that caliber, you know, that's a good thing.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would not want it to stop happening just because, I didn't particularly care for the movie overall. Again, I by no means hated it. It just wasn't what I was hoping for, what I thought I was getting. That's all.
And I agree with you. I think the vampire element of that movie is 100% the weakest part of the film.
Yeah.
Not that it's... And even again, it's not... It's not like bad. I don't know that I would say like, oh, it's terrible.
No.
It's just not what not what you'd want to, like if I was just going like, give me a vampire, people locked in a barn versus vampires, like I want, give me some meat there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I was a little disappointed in the movie overall, but
I get it.
Hey, it is what it is. What about you? What have you caught?
So I have two.
Okay.
And I like both of them.
Okay, good.
Okay. So I came across an anime, and I wanted to tell you about this because I think it's something you should check out.
Okay.
So it's on Netflix. I don't know if you got Netflix. It's called Bastard.
Never heard of it.
Heavy metal fantasy.
Really?
And it's set in a fantasy world, right? And it's about this dark wizard that dies or whatever and gets reincarnated in this little kid's body, and he can basically pop out and save the day and all that type of shit. But the reason why it's so good is because violent, right? Which is good. We like the violent, and little risque, which is hey, no complaints here.
Right.
But what I love about it is there's heavy metal shit throughout it. Like,
really?
The fucking guy's name is Dark Schneider.
Nice.
Right? Instead of D. Schneider.
Nice.
Like, some of the spells he uses, it's like Guns N' Roses. He fights against the Dark Wizard Osborne. Like,
nice.
Yeah, the Megadeth is a spell. Like, it's just like, it's fun. It's
that
goofy.
sounds
it's
good.
Fun. Like, the animation's great.
Really? Okay.
And yeah, it's got all this, it's just like, he does a fire spell and he's like Guns N' Roses. And I'm like, oh my God, how did that get made?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So,
I have to check that out.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of heavy metal back in the, like that type of shit. So I don't know if they kind of grabbed some elements of that or whatever.
Yeah,
but
sounds
yeah,
good.
very fun.
Cool.
So 2 seasons on Netflix.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, worth a watch.
Nice.
And the other thing I saw was Superman.
Oh, did you see it?
I saw it.
I have not seen it yet.
So I liked it.
Yeah, most people say that they do like it.
It's not a perfect movie.
No.
Not even close. I think that they nailed the lightheartedness of Superman. I think they got right.
Good.
You can tell he really cares about the people he's protecting. Like, there's a scene he saves a squirrel. Like,
nice.
It's Superman, right? And it feels like Superman.
Perfect.
It's sort of kind of a nothing plot.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's probably the weakest part of the film, is just that it's really, it kind of feels like things just happen. Like, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of it being like, this happens, therefore this happens, but this happens, therefore this. You know what I mean? Where it's more organic. So I think that's probably the weakest part of the film, is the plot. The other thing I think is kind of strange is, so Lex in the first half of the movie is great.
Okay.
Right? Very, very Lex Luthor-y. And then it almost feels like, there's this scene where it's like he does something and you're like, whoa. so we're really doing Lex Luthor here, right? And then it seems like they almost chickened out.
Oh, okay.
And we're like, maybe that's too, like, we're not going to cross this line again throughout the rest of the film. So I don't think he's bad, and I think given some time to grow, they can probably figure him out with Nicholas Hoult. Superman looks good, you know. I was trying to read some of the complaints online. A lot of people were upset that he was, you know, getting help from the team or whatever, and it's like, or that he gets beat up a lot, right? I heard, and it's like, yeah, but it's Ultraman, like.
Yeah, this is somebody of
the people that can beat Superman up. Like, this guy can do it.
Yeah, he has the ability to.
Right. So it's like, you know, I think overall really good. Guy Gardner, fucking great.
Yeah,
like
nice.
Mr. Terrific, great.
Yeah, everybody says he stole the show.
Stole the show.
Okay.
Hawkgirl didn't get a ton of screen time.
Yeah, I heard that too.
But what she did was good.
Good.
Was really good. So. You know, again, I don't know, you know, a lot of the Snyder bros are coming out against it, I guess, is what I've been hearing, is like a lot of the Snyder guys are like, oh, you know, the Snyderverse is better, or it made more money if you adjust for inflation and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, yeah, but if you go back and watch Man of Steel against this, like, Man of Steel feels like Batman.
But see, here's where I have a problem with that argument. Man of Steel kicked off the DCEU.
Right.
There was no people that despised DC movies at the time.
Right.
So you're fighting again. Right. So you're fighting. So if this movie came out then, it would do, to me, better than Man of Steel, because you had nothing to be complaining about. I think that ultimately the Snyderverse really hurt DC.
Yeah.
I think that it drove a lot of fans away. I think a lot of fans hate the movies that came out, and I think that Man of Steel was insulated to that in a sense because it was the first one. So even though it was very divisive, people saw it because this was kicking off that universe, and so they got, you know, again, a lot of times we've seen this happen a million times, right? A movie does exceptionally well, but people hate it, but financially it did well because people went to go check it out. And yeah, after the fact, people don't like it, but it made its money. But then what does it do going forward? And you can tell the DCEU did not do well going forward.
Here's some other points I want to make about Superman, is that there was just a smidge too much James Gunn humor in it.
Sure.
But it wasn't abrasive.
Okay.
And Crypto was great. Like, he wasn't overdone. He wasn't in enough scenes where it's like, get this fucking dog out of here.
You know what I saw today?
What's that?
There was a thing that came out on social media that said dog adoptions since Superman, because of Crypto, is up 500%.
Fuck yeah.
Because of Crypto.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the thing is, right, is I left the theater feeling good.
That's what you want.
And it's the first. Again, did it scratch? Superman has never been. I've always been Batman's always been my guy.
Superman's
right?
always going to be harder to do than Batman.
Right.
There is no doubt about
that. The same way you can connect to Batman, because again, he's a Kryptonian, right? So, but I left the theater feeling good, and you know, as I've sat with it for a while now, I think what's gonna. So I think currently whatever they're doing is going to work. I think James Gunn, I think he loves comic books.
Yep.
I think he loves DC. And I think that, you know, as far as putting it in someone, you know, because again, he's an industry guy. If you had to put it in someone's hands, I couldn't think of anybody better than him to tackle this, especially where you're doing a hard reboot of an already established set of properties.
Yep.
And the thing is that you know, there was, you know, the Snyderverse, there's all that heavy guitar shit, and like it doesn't feel like superhero stuff. It feels like everybody's Batman.
Right.
You know, everybody has to be gritty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what I want from Superman, especially. Like,
No.
Superman is supposed to, you know, there's a line where he does something, he goes, "Oh, dang it," and I go, "Fucking perfect." Like, of
Right.
course, that's what he says.
And in
right?
the comics, he does
and the
say
thing
that stuff.
Another strength to this movie is it is the most comic book movie.
Well, that's been the biggest compliment
It feels
about
like
it.
it feels
Right.
like a comic movie.
Everybody says
They
that it
fucking-
feels like a comic book movie.
Jimmy Olsen shit, perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Lois feels like Lois. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not fucking Amy Adams with her red hair. It's
Right.
Lois Lane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all of that feels really, really good. And, you know, I would have liked to have seen some more scenes with Clark and Lois and them interacting. But I would say overall, you know, I'd probably give the movie maybe a 7.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
On you know, because again, I think from a plot standpoint, meh.
Yeah, and I think that part of it, you know, part of that problem is, okay, we're not doing an origin story, so we're just doing, you know, so...
This is just a day in the life of
Right.
Year 3 Superman.
Right, exactly. And it's not really taking... I don't think too many elements were taken from the comics directly, right? So you're trying to create a story out of thin air.
Right.
And I think that's where it fell a little flat because, like, what is the story you're telling? We don't really know.
Right. And I think it's more about getting the characters on the board.
Right. And I think you're trying to establish the universe.
But here's the thing. I don't fucking need another Superman origin story.
I don't want an origin story of
for
any
anybody.
DC character.
I know them. I
Right.
know these
and if
characters.
you don't figure it out on your own.
And here's the thing. You know who Superman is.
Right.
Whether you know his origin story or not, you know who he is.
Right.
So, yes, sit down, buckle up, and go for the ride. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of the hate, you know, and it's wild. You know, there's people complaining about. I know, like there was this big thing because it was woke because he called him an immigrant or whatever, and it's
Right.
like no fucking shit. He's an alien.
Right.
He's literally an alien. Like that doesn't make it woke.
No.
It was good. It was what you know, is it Christopher Reeve Superman? No. I mean, there's very few things that are, right? But I thought it was better than Man of Steel, you know. Do I wish Cavill maybe got in bed with James Gunn instead of Zack Snyder? Sure, because I think Cavill really embodies sort of that look. But I don't think Corn Sweat looks bad.
No.
You know? And he's a little dopey, he's a little naive, and that works so well.
The thing is, though, if it's the second best, if it's better than Man of Steel and it's better than Superman Returns, and it's just not as good as Superman the movie, then you've succeeded, right? To me, that's a win.
Right, and you know what else that I love about it is they use the Superman theme.
Yeah, I like
You know what
that.
I mean?
That's
like,
awesome.
That's what I'm saying is like there are really good hits to this.
And, you know, it's
they
just-
didn't spoilers, I guess, but like, you know, Ma and Pa Kent are there.
Right.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It doesn't have to fucking be Batman.
Right. Well, I mean, again, Ma and Pa Kent are in the comics. Like, they're not dead.
Right.
You know?
It's not Kevin, what's his face?
Oh, and from Man of Steel?
Yeah, holding the fucking hand up to get eaten by a tornado.
Yeah.
Like, what the dumbest fucking death in all superhero.
Right. Why would you do that? Like,
Right.
That's the
And
stupidest
then
thing.
3 scenes later, he's fucking out anyway. Like, no, it's really good. And, you know, I think the Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific thing, like, I think James Gunn's biggest talent is bringing the B-list characters in and making them, like, they were great. Like, they really, really were. It was very enjoyable.
Right.
Guy Gardner wasn't in it that long, but every fucking scene he was in was chef's kiss.
But now, if you've seen Superman and you've seen Guy Gardner, once the Lantern series comes on HBO Max and he is in it, now you have now you're going to get people that want to go see that. Like, hey, I liked that character. He's in this with the other Green Lanterns. I'm going to check this property out now.
Right.
And I'm going to check, we're going to check this out because maybe, this person's in it, whatever.
So another thing I think is interesting, because I think we're years away from Batman in this universe.
Sure.
I think we're years away. We're going to get Batman, we're going to get Reeves Batman 2, whatever that's going to be called, right? And so I don't think I think what's really telling is he seeds a couple things here and there. We get to see the Hall of Justice.
Yeah, nice.
So he's seeding things, but you can tell he's not in a rush because they're doing Supergirl next.
Right, Supergirl's up next,
which is fine.
Yeah, which again establish the Superman family and the Justice Society or whatever you're calling them. Get that in there first, and then start bringing in your other characters. You'll get Wonder Woman, which I heard was being fast-tracked.
Right, so what they'll do is we're probably going to get, we got Superman, so that's in the books. We're getting Supergirl, which, again, she pops up in it. Right. And it's Supergirl the Mess, which is fine. Right. That's going to work great, because it'll be a great juxtaposition to this Superman. Yeah. Crypto, fantastic. So good, we have that element in there. Yep. I think a Mr. Terrific TV show would. So that's the thing, is like they have a real opportunity to do this right. Right. You know what I mean? You had Mr. Terrific, you had Hawkgirl, and you had Guy Gardner in this movie. If you want to do shows about them that don't impact the movies, great. Right. Because we got introduced to them in the movies. Do the shows. And if you liked Mr. Terrific, well, here's an 8-season run of what he's doing. Right. Or here's an 8-season run of what the Lanterns are doing. Yeah,
which we're getting that for sure. Right. That's done and coming out soon.
Which is great. But again, I think the one thing they have to really be careful about is whatever the Lanterns are doing can't impact what you're doing at the movie theater. No. It's supposed to be supplemental material. So you liked Guy Gardner? Well, we got more Guy Gardner here. But the stuff Guy Gardner's doing here isn't going to affect what is happening in the greater...
And James Gunn has made mention of Disney Plus being the downfall of Marvel. Like, he gets what happened to Marvel, and he does blame Disney Plus as the biggest reason for its downfall. And so he knows to not do that, right? Because he's already come out and said that that's what to not do. So he knows to not do it. So I doubt he will.
I think if he sets it up where in his movies he's introducing the B team, and then he wants to give the B team a series that doesn't impact the cinematic universe, I think that's a home run. Yeah. And I think because you saw how Disney failed with Marvel, is there a template there? Sure. But if you tweak it the right way, I think it could be very successful.
Right. I think that every movie should be self-contained, but you know that it's connected.
Sure. I mean, you can have a little bleed here and there. Like Supergirl popped up. Like, you can have that bleed.
Right. But I'm saying you could talk about something that just, what happened, right? So, again, you can say, like they did with Batman versus Superman, right? Even though it was done after the fact, right? So when Superman is fighting Zod and they're destroying the buildings, and then you have that beginning sequence with Bruce Wayne, you know what I mean? And you add it. You could have little touches like that, like, hey,
but this
just happened in Superman, and you could talk about it for a second. So you're connecting the dots in that way that it's all right. It's all interconnected. What is going on is happening simultaneously, but it doesn't have. It's not homework. This movie is now going to be self-contained. It really isn't going to have any real elements of the previous movie, and it's not going to give you, you don't have to know what happened in this movie if you don't want to watch this movie. If you don't want to see Supergirl because you don't care for Supergirl and Wonder Woman's up next and you like Wonder Woman, you don't have to watch Supergirl to understand Wonder Woman.
Right, exactly. But again, if you have that light touch where again, Supergirl wasn't a plot point.
Right.
She popped up to pick up her dog. That was it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, great. That's perfect. That's light. That's a light touch. It just reminds us that there's other stories going on in this universe without it all bleeding together. And what happened with Disney, especially post Endgame, which again, I think everything up until Endgame, it started off very isolated, and then it started bleeding more and more and more and more. And then instead of resetting after Endgame, they just continued with that bleed. And then when you factor in the Disney Plus shows on top of that, nobody is signing up for that shit.
No. And if James Gunn is going to do a bleed, right? The one thing that Marvel did incorrectly is you should not be introducing the characters on Disney Plus and then they appear in the movies. If you have them appear in the movies,
and then you
could,
right?
Because if you don't want to watch the HBO Max show of Mr. Terrific, let's say, you don't have to watch it, and it won't impact whatsoever. But if all of a sudden
he shows up in another movie, you know who he is already.
Right. But if you're making people watch 8-10 hours of HBO Max shows to know who those characters are when they have to see the next movie, now that's homework. Now you're doing a disservice.
Right.
That's what Marvel
force
did.
People to be lore masters
right.
for characters they don't even care about just so they can know what's going on in the movies.
Right. Just, again, that's so if James Gunn wants to do the reverse, that would be okay, because then it could be like, hey,
we were calling for that before this even came out.
No, absolutely.
It's just like I've said it before a couple times. It's just that I think the only way you can have shows is if the characters are introduced in the cinematic universe, and then it's like, oh, I like this guy. Let me go watch his TV show.
Right.
Or you can have things like Creature Commandos or whatever, right? I mean, but again, if they're gonna pop up in the cinematic universe, that has to be an introduction to them, and then it's like, hey, by the way, there's all this supplemental stuff if you want to get your hands on it.
Yeah. Now, again, the only one I would say is like you could do Peacemaker, because you had the first season, even though it's not fully in this universe, right? The second season will be. So you are going to introduce Peacemaker essentially in a series, but people know at this point people know Peacemaker. So if Peacemaker popped up in the next movie, you would know who that is. Most people who follow DC would know who that is.
Well, do you want me to hit you with a spoiler?
Oh, is he in there?
You want me to hit you
sure.
with a spoiler? So there was a scene, whatever Lex does to make Superman's reputation shittier, right? That's part of the plot or whatever. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of it all. And then it's the media, right? The media circus starts going on and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a scene of somebody interviewing fucking Peacemaker.
Okay, there you go.
So, but again, like, in the theater I was in, when he popped up, everybody started laughing.
Right, because you know who that is.
Right. So that's the thing, is like, he's the only holdover from the DCEU, I guess.
Right.
But he, unless the suicide, that's the thing, is I assume the Suicide Squad is no longer canon.
No.
But the Peacemaker show for them is, I don't know if season 1 is
kinda.
Well, we'll find out in August, right?
Right, because we are getting what's her name? Who does Amanda Waller?
She's a holdover too, right? Because she's going to play Amanda Waller.
Right. And
Viola Davis is going to be...
Right. But, like, what they are... Like, so... Like, Frank Grillo was in Creature Commandos as Rick Flag Sr.
And he was in This is Rick Flag.
And he's going to be in Peacemaker Season 2.
But Creature Commandos is a part of this.
Right, but what I'm saying is Creature Commandos was in a TV show.
Right.
So, again, there might be some... but you can't expect everybody to... And that's my whole point, is if Rick Flag just popped up in this, so now you kind of know who he is. So when he goes to...
But here's the thing. So Rick Flag was in Superman.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if Rick Flag was in Superman...
But he didn't mention the Creature Commandos or anything. So it's like you're still getting an introduction to Rick Flag in the kickoff. And then it's like, if you were to go and watch Creature Commandos, you go, oh, that's the motherfucker who was in Superman.
Right. But now when Peacemaker Season 2 comes out, he's going to be in it, and you're going to say, oh, yeah, he was in
Superman, right.
Even if you didn't watch Creature Commandos, you're going to know that he was in Superman.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what you have to do. You have to introduce everybody in the movies, expecting that not everybody watches the TV shows, but give them a reason to go watch the TV shows.
But this is why I'm happy with the cameos that got pulled. Like, I'm glad Peacemaker was in this movie.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's perfect. Because it's like, even though everybody knows who Peacemaker is, right? You're still introducing him, whether
and
or
if
not
you didn't, now you do.
Right, but whether or not you wanted to consider that an introduction, he was on there, you're like, oh, we're talking a Peacemaker, right? So it's like, now if you didn't watch season 1 of Peacemaker and you watch season 2, you're going to be like, that's the motherfucker from I remember that shiny dome in Superman.
Exactly.
So at least it's all connected in that element. Now, what's really going to be telling is what happens in these shows, because they have to be isolated and they can't affect what happens in the movies, because then it's homework.
Right. And again, you're going to get, inevitably, because there's probably going to be more TV shows than there are movies, you are going to get some people that are going to debut in these TV shows. Inevitably, it's going to happen.
Sure, but I mean, like, I don't care if the B and C squad of Peacemaker is debuted in Peacemaker shit.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you're not gonna debut. You should not be debuting a big name or somebody that you hope to be a big name going forward in a TV show. If
Agree.
you want, like, you should not be introducing Nightwing
in a TV show. Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
That is insanity. So, back to, when you want somebody like a Miss Marvel to be a big name, even though that's never going to happen, you expected people to watch a TV show to get the introduction to then watch the Marvels. And it's like, well, if you don't, then you don't know who this is. And so, again, you should have had, if this is going to be a big star or a person that's going to be an A-list character, then they have to be introduced in the movies.
Right. Someone that's going to have real weight on what happens in the cinematic universe has to be introduced in the cinematic universe, period. Right. But so far, again, we've only got the one movie so far, but movie itself was only about a 7.
Yeah.
CGI was, for the most part, good. There's scenes where you're like, all right, whatever. But, again, it felt like leaving that theater was like, okay, if I had just watched a solid Marvel movie like back in the day, that's how I felt. I was like, I laughed, I got emotional at a few scenes.
Nice.
It was fun, Do I think they have Lex nailed? I think it needs a little tweaking. You know what I mean? Again, I think the first half of the movie was a very different Lex than we got in the second half, and you can argue that as his plan unravels, maybe he starts to unravel type of shit.
Sure.
But no, I think ultimately, I think what'll be telling is what they do with Batman, really, because he had, like, I'm not saying it has to be Matt Reeves dark, you know what I mean, but again, he's the dark character in this universe, like, and I think the animation nails that when, you know, he's always so serious, and then every once in a great while he'll tell a joke, and everybody's like,
right,
the fuck?
And I don't agree with, you know, the YouTubers out there shitting all over this movie, talking about, you know, the financial end of it, because, you know, right now we are in a, you know, with superhero movies, they aren't performing like they used to. I mean, that's overall they're not performing financially.
I'd go even a step further and say the biggest injustice that a lot of these talking heads are doing is not recognizing that the movie industry as a whole, post-COVID, is different than it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
There were very, very few movies that are clearing $1 billion now.
Right. But the thing is, right, we just had our first one of 2025. Lilo and Stitch just
That's what I'm saying
passed. That's one.
Pre-COVID.
We're in month 7 of the year.
Pre-COVID, every fucking movie was clearing $1 billion. Even if it was garbage.
Right.
Every big budget movie was doing well over $1 billion. Post-COVID, it almost reminds me, it's almost like a return to the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where, like, if a movie does 500, 600, 700 million, that's a win.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other part of it, too, is, look, Superman is, you know, again, I understand you always want to lead with Superman, right? You kind of want to establish the universe around Superman.
Well, Superman is, you know, the sun and all the other characters of the planets, right?
But he's never your top seller.
Never.
So
never. Not in the comic books.
Right.
Not in the cartoons.
No.
He's not. Because, again, it's hard to relate to the, you know, again, the perfect
right
being.
And so, you know, to say that, you know, James Gunn's universe is in trouble because Superman may not do $1 billion, I think is foolhardy. I think that you're hating for the sake of hating at this point.
Well, I would even go a step further for the financial element of it. I think the correct way to look at it is like you said earlier, superhero movies in general. I don't want to say they're in trouble because, again, after seeing Superman, I'm back on board, at least DC right now. I'm like, great, this felt fun.
Yeah.
This was a great summer blockbuster, like, thumbs up. It seems like the general consensus is that Superman, while not being perfect, is a return to form of what we as the general public want in a superhero movie.
Right.
So maybe this one doesn't clear $1 billion, right? Because again, there's still that mistrust, and not everybody's going to word of mouth, take it for word of mouth. But maybe the next one or the one after that does clear $1 billion, and then once you've gained the trust back from the audience, people start going back to the theater because now it's worth their hard-earned money to spend the $17 for a ticket versus another Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like Thunderbolts, very highly rated, tanked at the box office because you're not gonna. It's not a one picture deal. It takes multiple pictures to build these universes up and multiple pictures to tear them down. It's not like Endgame and Homecoming and No Way Home happened and then everyone was like, well, fuck Marvel. No. It was Wakanda Forever. It was
Thor Love and Thunder.
Thor Love and Thunder. It was what was the other real bad one? Eternals, nobody cared about.
The Marvels. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. You can go down this list for a while.
But what I'm saying is this didn't happen overnight.
No, it happened over multiple years.
Multiple years to lose the trust of the audience. So for Nerdrotic and all those guys to kind of be like, oh, you know, I wanted to like this, but I didn't love it, and now the James Gunn universe. I think if this movie sucked, maybe you have that conversation. You know what I mean? But I think it's far more, and I think Warner Brothers is on the same page as I am on this, that's a rarity. But I think it's far more important that this movie doesn't suck
Right.
than it is a financial blowout.
Right. And you have to you have to regain the trust of people because the DCEU lost the trust of DC fans, so you have to regain the trust, which is going to take some time for people to do.
Yep.
And you do have to overcome the Snyder Bros. You do have to overcome that because there is a subset of people that just are going to hate this movie, not because it sucks, just because
It's not the
Zack
Snyder
Snyder,
Bros.
right?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not Henry Cavill, and Henry Cavill got screwed. And you could say what you want, whether we think that Henry Cavill got treated fairly or unfairly, but it's the movie business, and it is what it is. So we got a new Superman
Right,
now.
and Cavill's got his shit lined up, so he's taken care of. So you don't have to weep for Henry Cavill.
Right. It's not James Gunn and David Cornsweet's, problem about what happened to Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was gone prior to James Gunn.
And here's the thing. I love Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Seems like a solid dude.
Right.
He's very good in the stuff he's in. But he's in his 40s. Mm-hmm. So that's the other half of this is Cornsweet's not. And
Right.
if I'm going to get, I don't want Cavill at 55 years old.
Yeah, regardless of whether he looks the role still at 55 years old.
Being Superman.
Right. We want, because again, the expectation is this is going to be 10 years of this guy.
Right, exactly.
And you have to let him establish himself. You have to let this guy establish himself as Superman. Look, no one, I talked about that Christopher Reeve movie, Superman, that was his life story. People didn't take to Christopher Reeve as Superman right away either. Like, this wasn't, immediate success. It took a little while to get that ball rolling, and when it did, it took off. This has to take a little while to get rolling, too. You have to get people to, okay, I've got to give this guy his opportunity and not base it on somebody else. You can't keep on basing it off Christopher Reeve. Like, can we stop with that? Like, that was 1977, 78 that movie came out. Can we stop now? Like, yes, it's the best Superman movie, probably the best one that will ever get made, but it was the first one, and it was nothing at the time like it.
Right. And I like I said, I think what's really important for James Gunn's universe is that this didn't suck.
Right.
Like, that's really like, if it sucked, it's over.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if this came out and the general consensus was, no, this was fucking terrible. Like, they don't know who Superman is. They got Superman wrong. Like, it sucks.
Right.
It's over. Because, you're not going to, the audience is just going to go, okay, it's just more Warner Brothers bullshit. Pass. But it didn't suck. Now, it wasn't great.
Right.
It's not a life-changing movie. You're not going to leave the theater going like, oh, my faith in superhero movies is totally restored.
Yeah.
But I left going like...
And you can't go by financials, right?
No, because it's going to take time.
Right. Look at what they were trying to say when Captain America 4 bombed, right? What were they trying to say? Well, it made more than the first Avenger. Is Captain America 4 anywhere close to Captain America the first Avenger in quality?
No, it can't hold a candle to it.
It's not even fucking close.
But here's the other thing, though, and I think I look at the financials for Marvel differently than I look at the financials for
you have to
for DC
you
because
have to.
Again, this is issue 1,
right? You have to,
and we're on like issue 50 with Marvel, so it's going to take time.
Right? It definitely going to take time,
and it's going to take word of mouth and the reputation to build. Now, next up on the block for DC is Peacemaker, right? Which I loved season 1.
Most everybody did.
If season 2 is anywhere near season 1, I think we're good there. I don't know when. Supergirl is what, next year?
I think so.
Right. So
I think next year we'll probably get the Lantern series and Supergirl.
Right.
Maybe something else.
And again, you're not oversaturating me with DC.
Right.
All I need is one DC movie a year. You don't have to, if you want to give me the series, if you want to give me Guy Gardner in the first half of the year, and then Supergirl in the summer or whatever, or Supergirl in the summer, and then Guy Gardner's Lantern series at the end of the year, cool. And if you want to have some if you want to do some animation, or just to pad out the fact that we have a pretty constant stream of content from DC, I'm good with all of that.
Sure.
But I don't need 5 TV shows and 3 movies in a year.
Right.
I don't need that.
No. No. And now that's part of their biggest downfall with Marvel.
We already had Thunderbolts this year.
We had Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts this year.
And we're getting Fantastic Four.
And we had Ironheart. And we had Daredevil Born Again, I believe.
Right. So you're talking about... And it's July.
Right.
So in July...
And we have Fantastic Four coming out in another week.
You're talking about 5 fucking Marvel properties in the first half of the year.
Well, I think Wonder Man comes out at the end of this year as well.
So that's what I'm saying is just like... I got my Superman fix. Made me feel good. I want more. Yeah. Next year. Make me wait for it. Don't fucking give me some Peacemaker in August. Great. That's a great 1-2 punch.
Right.
That's all I need this year.
But then, let it come out on video on demand, you know what I mean, and home discs and all that, and see how it performs, right? Because I think that this movie will build steam after the movie theater. I think that it will continue to build an audience.
I totally agree.
And I think that people are going to, by the next time you're ready to do another movie, I think you're going to get more people out to the movie theater because you've built up a little trust. You've built up interest, and people are going to be like, okay, I want to see what's up next.
But here's the other thing that I like, is that the next movie is Supergirl.
Right.
So we're not rushing. You want to. I heard they're fast tracking Wonder Woman,
right,
which is fine for the third film, right? But introduce the super family first. Let me meet the important players of this universe.
Yeah.
And then move on to Wonder Woman, and let me meet the important people in the Wonder Woman universe.
Yep.
And then who knows? Maybe they'll do Flash after that. Like I said, I don't think we're going to see Batman in this universe anytime soon.
And you shouldn't.
Well, because we have a Batman movie coming in 2027. So
right, and you're probably going to get a season 2 of Penguin.
Right. So that's the thing, is you're gonna scratch the Batman itch regardless. Right. People like Matt Reeves' Batman. Right? So more of that is not a bad thing.
Right.
And if you're already scratching the Batman itch, far better to get everybody else on the board and then introduce us to the Dark Knight.
Well, and I will say this too. If and I don't know, this to be the case or not, but if say the Batman 2 is it, right? You're not going to go beyond that. And let's say Penguin season 2 is it. You're not going to go beyond that. Then end that universe so there's no confusion. Don't have multiple Batmen going at the same time.
I totally agree.
End that universe before you ever think about creating this Batman universe. So
now let me ask you this, though. Do you think, with what we've seen from Matt Reeves, right, do you think that you could bring Pattinson in as the Batman of this universe?
I think you should bring Pattinson in as the Batman of this universe.
Okay, and you know what? I don't disagree. I think that you have if the tone that we're going with the Batman is Batman's identity, and you have the gritty criminals and all of that, perfect.
There's nothing that happened in the Batman that would conflict with the Superman movie that just came out.
No, and I would even argue that, because I've said this to you about the Batman, is that it's gritty, which I like. But it's not grounded.
Right.
Because there are so many comic book elements to it where it's just like, this feels like a comic book. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like a Nolan Batman type of thing. It feels comic booky, which to me keeps in line with what Gunn is trying to set up. And you still get to keep a gritty Batman, keep a lighthearted Superman. And again, I've said this, Wonder Woman should not be gritty.
Not at all.
Nope. Flash shouldn't be gritty.
But here's the thing too, right? You can do, right, say the Batman 2 comes out, and then say whatever the next movie comes out, let's say it's Wonder Woman, and beyond that, like, let's say you want to make the Trinity, right, happen at the end of Wonder Woman, right? You could have Batman and Superman meet up and be like, hey, they've known each other for years. Like, hey, Bruce, what's going on? Hey, Clark, what's happening? Like, they just they know of each other, but they're just letting each other do their own thing. But you could say they both existed simultaneously and say, well, how does he not know about him? No, they do know about each other. Right, they just let each other do what they wanted to do.
And but that would work so well.
Right.
That would work so well because it's right in line with what Gunn is doing already. Mm-hmm. We're not telling origin stories.
Right.
This is an established, lived-in universe that's not just beginning. It's been around.
Right.
You know, we had Batman doing Batman Year One, right?
Yep.
Didn't really get an origin story. We got Batman Year One, right? Superman Year 3.
Right.
So it's not... we didn't get the Martha and Thomas alleyway bullshit.
Right.
You know what I mean? We didn't get the rocket ship from Krypton bullshit that we've all seen 1,000 times. We're getting established characters, so it would only make sense that they do know each other.
Right, and Wonder Woman is also going to be established. When her movie comes out, she also will be already established.
But to me, if you love comics, right? If you're making comic book movies for people that love comics, that's the beauty of comics, is you can pick up a comic book. And I'm not saying, don't pick up issue 5 in a series of 10, but you can pick up a comic and you're in the world.
Yep.
And the story is happening. Not every run is an origin story in the comic universe.
No, not at all.
We expect you to know who these characters are. And that's not to say, maybe the B, C, and D character, like, all right, we get that maybe you don't know who those people are.
Yeah, there might be some, but you have to, again, you've done the big characters of the DC universe in the DCEU.
Right.
Right. We had Aquaman, we had Flash, we had Wonder Woman. All of that's been done. So you have other movies that, even though they're not a part of this new universe, you can go watch those movies and understand the origin story, and that origin story would be the same even though they're not telling it. The origin story still exists.
Right. We don't need origin stories.
Right.
We don't need them.
So you can go check it out yourself on your own time to get an origin story if you need that to understand the character better. But in James Gunn's universe, you're not going to get origin stories for the characters that already have them. Now, not saying you won't get an origin story by somebody, but let me tell you something. Whenever it happens, right, Lobo is going to appear. You're not going to get an origin story of Lobo.
No,
you better know who the fuck Lobo is.
Lobo's riding up on the fucking motorcycle.
Right. And I guarantee you, and I guarantee you that when that happens in the movie theater, 90% of people are going to know who Lobo is. But there might be some that don't, but 90% of the people in that audience are going to know who Lobo is when he appears on screen for the first time.
And I think it's awesome that it's Momoa.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I think it's awesome.
Absolutely. And so, there is going to be some, your homework is not going to be that you have to watch hours upon hours upon hours of other shows to keep up with what's happening. Your homework is going to be, you are going to have to kind of know who these characters are when they appear.
That's the homework.
That's on you.
But you know what that does is it strengthens the entire brand, because it's like, oh, you need an origin story? Well, here's the best Batman origin story I have.
Right.
Go check this out.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that nobody will get an origin story. I'm sure somebody probably will have a movie that is an origin story. I'm not saying it'll be devoid of that completely. I'm just saying that the majority of your heroes in the DC universe are already going to be established, and it's up to you to know who they are. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about...
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm feeling good about DC's beginning. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling good about DC's origin.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen with Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Or at least hearing it's not looking good. I've obviously not seen it.
I've read some clickbaity shit that I think was bullshit. You know, someone was talking about Ben and Reed having a relationship, but that was all clickbait bullshit. Yeah. I think it's really going to hinge. I think what's going to make or break Fantastic Four is how good Galactus is.
Yeah. I will say the one thing that came out today that I'm very disappointed in is that John Malkovich's Red Ghost has been completely cut from the movie. 100%.
So I saw that too.
Yeah, and that sucks.
So my initial thought was I was disappointed. Mm-hmm. But now I'm going, I would rather him get cut if it was a half-assed story.
Sure.
Like if his character, I don't want you to bring him in and it's a bullshit half-assed story just to have Red Ghost in there.
Right, but what I don't, but on the flip side of that, I don't want a shit movie where you could have used Malkovich instead, but you chose something else that fails miserably.
Right. I guess my point is that if they cut it out because it was the B plot in the movie, and they just couldn't,
couldn't make it work.
Right. There wasn't enough time to give it give it what it deserved. Fine. Cut it out. Shave off the time. Keep us invested in the Galactus plot and what matters to the Fantastic Four. But if you cut him out to add some other bullshit in, that's a mistake.
Well, see, but that's what kind of worries me, right? Is because you did all those reshoots with Julia Garner as herself, right? So not even as the Silver Surfer, so maybe telling like an origin story of her, right? You did all these reshoots after the fact, and I'm just saying, well, if you added all that in, that's going to be what took time away from Malkovich. And if that part of it sucks, and that's what you decided to go with as opposed to Malkovich, then I think you made a serious miscalculation.
But that's only going to suck if she sucks.
Well, that's what I mean. If what you reshot is terrible, and that was at the cost of Malkovich.
Well, I think what it's going to come down to is whether or not we like Silver Surfer, really.
Right.
Right? Like, again, a lot of people are upset that it's a female, but I think a lot of that has died down at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you're over it. Either you're over it or you're just, get over it.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So now that we're over the initial shock of Silver Surfer being female, right? Now it becomes, is she good?
Right.
And if she's good, no problem. You want to give us an origin story for Silver Surfer? Cool. If she's good. If she's not a net positive to the movie, then what you've done is you've just padded out more of a net negative and just padded that out.
Right.
Right? So it's going to really, it's really going to hinge on how good Silver Surfer is.
Well,
I mean, what I've seen, the animation isn't great.
No.
But the clips I've seen of her have been fine.
But,
I mean,
and I've said this before, and I'll say it a million times. This isn't her replacing Norrin Rad.
No.
So this is, again. So my point is, let's see how she performs, and if she's good, great. If she sucks, then you can complain that why did you go with her as opposed to Norrin Rad, and that's a whole separate conversation that you can have if she's terrible.
Right.
But if she's good and she does and it's a good Silver Surfer, Well, then you can still have Nora and Rat. You can have both. You're not taking one away. One is not lost forever.
So here's where I'm at with Fantastic Four right now, because when the initial trailer dropped, I was like, oh, this feels kind of closer to what I want out of a Marvel movie. And I still feel that way for the most part.
Sure.
I think the casting is wrong. Like I do too. I don't think Sue or Reed were cast right.
Yeah. And I don't get a Johnny Storm vibe from I don't know his name, but I just don't get it.
Quinn.
Yeah, I just don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely seems like a softer version of Johnny.
Yeah.
But at least for me, Reed is really what matters.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So like, I'm not saying Pedro Pascal can't do it. It's just almost distracting because it's like there's so much Pedro Pascal saturation right now, and dude has a pretty good range. Like, I'm not hating on him as an actor.
Pedro Pascal can be hit or miss as an actor, right? In some cases he nails it. Like, everybody praises his performance in The Last of Us.
Yeah, and he was good in Game of Thrones.
Right, and then obviously he was awful in Wonder Woman 1984. So
sure, but everything was awful in Wonder Woman 1984.
But what I'm saying is,
I don't think that was him.
No. But I'm just saying, like, he doesn't hit a home run every time. But
no, he can't save a movie.
No, but he's got a decent enough batting average where he can, performance-wise, he can pull it off. The problem is that people are so sick of Pedro Pascal. His acting is secondary now to the people that don't want him on screen.
So here's where I'm at with Fantastic Four. So plot aside right now, because obviously we don't really know what's going on. I think Ben's voice is weird. Like that,
yeah,
I'm never going to be able to get used to that.
Yeah, that
I think
ain't
he looks
right.
great.
Yeah, he does look great.
But the
voice just does not work.
No, and maybe there'll be some evolution to that, because I know in some of the trailers they're teasing him about Clobber and Time and stuff, and like obviously they're going to build that up till the end when he says it.
Right.
But what's really going to make or break this movie is, do I like Silver Surfer? And is Galactus good? Because if Galactus is going to look good. Like, we've seen the popcorn buckets. Like, it looks like Galactus, right? So Galactus looks good. But is Galactus going to be good? Is he going to be a credible threat? Are we setting him up to actually be a bad guy? Like, what's the plan for him, right? Because Galactus is not a one or done.
That should not be.
Right. So if they do a one or done like they did, with a lot of these, especially now that Kang is off the board, I guess. I mean, I know there's a little talk here and there about recasts, but you can't just have Galactus, the World Eater, show up and have a one and done Fantastic Four. No. I mean, you can sideline him for a little bit.
Yeah, you could defeat him in the movie
in the moment.
For the moment, right?
But
but you can't kill him. Like, if you kill him off in the movie and that's it, we get one Galactus movie and he gets killed and we never get him again. Well, that's a gigantic mistake. Like, you can defeat him for the movie and then he comes back even stronger the next time.
I think Marvel has the opportunity to turn things around.
They do.
I think they do, and I think they're trying. You know what I mean? Like, look, Ironheart was already made.
Yeah, it was made 2 years ago.
Feel however you want. And by the way, speaking of Ironheart, the Mephisto scenes weren't bad. Like, he's not a terrible Mephisto. I wasn't like, oh, this fucking guy. No, he was fine as Mephisto. Like, I think if you brought him into the universe as Mephisto, that would work.
Yeah, it might.
But it's just everything around that situation was stupid.
Right.
So it doesn't work. But, like, Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto was fine. Like, he wasn't goofy. he was Mephisto. He was like kind of suave and all that shit, and like, you know, I was like, okay, I could buy this as Mephisto. Everything else in the show is fucking terrible.
Right.
And I'm not saying that, you know, but again, it's one of those characters where it's just like, he's not saving a shitty television show.
No.
But I was fine with his representation of it.
Now, if he pops up, you know, say in Doctor Strange 3, and he's, you know, the real big bad villain of that movie.
Yeah, like Red and all that shit.
Yeah, and he looks the part, then, yeah, okay, maybe that would work.
Right. So I'm not opposed to, you know, him being Mephisto.
Sure.
I want to just get that out there. And Ironheart was already made, so we can't judge. Right. We can't, you know, to me, Fantastic Four is the first time they're really having an opportunity after they've come to, you know, their quote unquote come to Jesus moment of this isn't working, we fucked up, and whatever they decide to do with it is going to dictate, I think, what happens going forward.
Right, and this, you know, this is the movie that is going to directly go into Avengers Doomsday.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is the starting point of that.
Well, is there anything after this besides Doomsday?
Well, the only thing that's after this is going to be Spider-Man, but again, that's run by Sony.
Right, Spider-Man is
and it's its own separate
right, it's
thing.
outside universe
right.
shit.
So realistically, no. This is going to be the direct movie leading into Doomsday,
which we're getting next year.
Right.
And then we get Secret Wars the year after.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, you know, again, if I'm Kevin Feige and Bob Iger, and I'm looking at how well Superman did, you gotta, like, we'll find out next week if Fantastic Four is, you know, worth its weight. But
yeah, you know, and again, I'm not even saying that if Fantastic Four flops, that Marvel's dead.
No, because they have Doomsday. Like Doomsday, no matter what, you're gonna get the nostalgia bomb.
Right. But if Fantastic Four flops, right?
Yeah.
And it flops for all the things the reasons why we would think it flops.
Right. If it's just
is the reason it flops.
So what is it? This is Phase 6 now.
Yes.
Okay.
Officially, Fantastic Four kicks off Phase 6.
So, right. So if Phase 6 is just more Phase 5 bullshit.
Well, but then, you know, but that's the thing, right? Then you have to say, okay, like to me, honestly, if Fantastic Four flops,
right,
for the reasons we say that it would flop for,
right, somebody
has to replace Feige at that, like immediately that day. Feige has to no longer be in charge.
Well, I mean, at that point, I mean, if Fantastic Four is just more Phase 5, right? If it's just Phase 5.5 or you know 5.5 or whatever, I mean, you kind of have to just scratch your head and go, so what is the plan then?
Right. Well, there really isn't. Like, there wouldn't be a plan at that point.
Is Feige really just going to be allowed to keep doing this?
No. If you want to save Doomsday, if Fantastic Four flops, the only way to salvage and make Doomsday the big event and the big win that Bob Iger wants on his way out, you have to replace Feige. At that point, you have to say, we've given you promised, because this is, you know, what we heard from Feige. Hey, you know, I'm not going to admit I was wrong. I'm just going to say, hey, you know, yeah, there were some things that we are going to tweak, and Fantastic Four is the kickoff of that new vision.
Like,
that's what you told us.
No one's expecting Fantastic Four to be perfect, and I'm sure you're going to get some of that cringy Phase 5 bullshit carrying over. But this is your chance to prove to the audience, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the audience, myself included, is going like, bro, if I leave the theater, well, let me backtrack on that. The only reason I saw Superman is because it was getting good reviews.
Sure.
Because I'm not just going to spend the money. Mm-hmm. I'll get a screener.
Right.
Eventually.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We get them.
Right.
So if I'm going to go have the theater experience, it's got to be worth the $17 it costs to go.
Absolutely.
So fantastic, we'll get the reviews probably next Thursday, right? Because it's coming out on Friday.
Yeah.
If it's not a 7 or above, I'm not going.
Right.
So I'm not even giving it the chance in the movies.
Right.
If it's a 7 or above, I'll go.
Sure.
I'll go.
Sure.
Superman was at an 8 when I decided I was going, and then as more people saw it, it came down a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's sitting at a 78 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and personally, I think it's more 74. But still, you're in the 7 range.
That's fine.
If Fantastic Four is in the 7 range, I'll go. Because again, I'm trying to give Feige the benefit of the doubt. Like you fumbled Phase 5. You fumbled it. The only good thing to come out of Phase 5 was fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't put anything on Deadpool and Wolverine.
I don't even count that as a Marvel movie.
No, I don't give him credit at all for that. So
no, it doesn't. But that's the thing is, doesn't feel like it feels like a Fox movie,
which it mostly is. But yeah, I mean, but if the rumors are true, and Reed Richards is a piece of shit, Sue Storm is the leader, her and the female Silver Surfer girl boss it up to defeat Galactus, and they're the saviors, and that's how the movie is, and it flops, then no, I can't, then I don't see anybody or any reason to give Kevin Feige any more benefit of the doubt. And if I'm Bob Iger, I'm like, I need to replace you because I already told you that wasn't going to work.
So let me ask you this, though. What if Reed Richards and Silver Surfer team up to, take Galactus down? Are you good with that?
Sure, because,
right.
Because, again, whether we like the fact that it's a female Silver Surfer or a male Silver Surfer, this is the Herald of Galactus.
Right.
If that Herald of Galactus, which, again, wants to turn good to become a hero and teams up with Reed Richards to defeat Galactus, yeah, I would think that the Silver Surfer has to be a part of that defeat. Like, the Silver Surfer has to help in defeating Galactus.
Right. I just think it's, and again, we've kind of talked about sort of like the importance of Sue Storm in the Fantastic Four and how without her, none of it works.
Right.
And to me, that's why Sue Storm is important. That's why she's a A-tier character, because without her, there is no Fantastic Four. Right. But also, without Reed Richards, there is no Fantastic Four.
Right.
So they're equally important in my mind, but their roles are different. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you're gonna cut Reed Richards off at the knee to boost Sue Storm, who's already as important as Reed Richards is, but has a different role, but is as important. I don't think anyone would argue that she's not as important as Reed Richards.
No.
But the minute that you stop making Reed Richards as important as Sue Storm, that's where that's where I think they keep getting fucked up, is that no one is arguing that Sue Storm is not as important as Reed Richards. If there's no Sue Storm, there's no Reed Richards, he becomes Doom, there's no Fantastic Four.
Right.
Johnny and Ben or whatever, like they're important, but it's Sue and Reed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're the minions that carry out the orders. You got some muscle there, other elements, but they're not the strategists.
Right. It's not Sue. It's Sue and Reed. Everybody knows it's Sue and Reed, and the minute that you stop making Reed as important as Sue is the minute that it doesn't feel like Fantastic Four.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the thing is, but Reed has to be the guy. He has to be the guy that ultimately is the person that's going to come up with the plan to defeat. Now, Sue, again, is very important in her role, but Reed's the guy. Like, you have to have Reed Richards be the person that formulates the plan and carries it out. And Sue...
Oh, you mean one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe? That Reed Richards?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that's what it is. Like, so if you diminish that in any way, then you've killed the character.
But I would argue this, right, is that if you made Reed Richards the one that was holding it all together, now you're diminishing Sue Storm's character.
Right.
Because, again, they are equal parts that complement each other with different roles, and one cannot exist without the other. Right. But you don't need to reverse that shit.
Right. I mean, the thing is, Reed is going to... If you're coming up with a plan to defeat Galactus, Reed's plan is going to be where it kills 1 million people. Sue makes it
right.
and makes it go to Galactus only. That's what the importance of Sue is. Reed would kill those 1 million people because it ultimately defeats Galactus.
Yeah, because
and
Reed
he would say,
is literally Doom.
Hey, right.
He's Doom. He's just Doom.
Right.
Except...
And Sue says, hey, Reed, you can't do that.
Right.
Whittle it down to only defeat Galactus. And he's like, okay.
All right, I'll figure it out.
And he figures it out, and then he carries it through, and he defeats Galactus. That's the importance of Sue and the importance of Reed. Without the other does not work. But if you make it where Sue supersedes Reed, that also does not work.
No, it's not a partnership then.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, no, and here's the other thing. I don't want to see Reed as a beta cuck male.
No.
Right? But I don't want to see Sue as a submissive,
no,
pretty princess type girl either.
No.
I want to see them as equal partners. Sue understands Reed's weaknesses, and Reed understands his weaknesses, so he listens to Sue.
Right. And the only reason why Sue does do the pretty princess thing is because Reed never looks at her like he looks at her brain. Like, he's always thinking of her intelligence.
Right.
And sometimes she's like, hey, there's a little bit more to me.
Right. But I guess what I meant was I don't want, I guess pretty princess wasn't the right term. I don't want to see Sue as a damsel in distress.
Right. That can never happen.
Right. So I don't want to see her as a damsel in distress, but I don't want to see him as a beta cuck either, because those are not the characters.
Right.
Those are not the characters. No. They're both, I hate to say alpha, but they're both, leader characters that feed off of one another.
Right. But they have different missions of what they do to make the team successful. And if you interchange that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work if Sue becomes the person that ultimately, solely defeats or comes up with the plan to solely defeat, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even with the help of Silver Surfer.
And I'd go even a step further and say, like, look, I understand you're not going to make Reed Richards comic book accurate. Like, you can't. Like,
sure.
People aren't going to get on board with Reed Richards if, again, because at least in the comics I've read, he's very close to Doom.
Reed Richards is an asshole.
Right.
For the most part.
Well, he's just a computer.
Right.
Like, there's no fucking emotion in
and
it.
he doesn't, and he's not that, it's just he doesn't realize...
Right. There's
exactly
probably a little bit of the tism involved, too. But, no one is ever like, oh, yeah, we love Reed Richards because he's so kind. It's like, no.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
That's not a Reed Richards trait. So, I get it. Like, you got to soften him a little bit for the general public.
Sure.
Right? Like, he doesn't have to be fucking, Doom 0.5 or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
he doesn't have to be Doom-esque.
Right. You can make him a little softer, and they're doing it with the Family Man element of it, right? Which is fine. I'm cool with all that.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to see him be weak.
Right. Yeah, I do not want to see him be, I don't want him to be...
Like, his weakness should be his intelligence.
Right. I don't want to see him be weak, but I also don't want to see him be this, masculine toxicity.
No.
And that's why Sue is the leader, because he's such, he's not that, when we say he's an asshole, it's not that.
He's an asshole, like Doom is an asshole. It's cold and calculating.
Right. He's got a very high intelligence, and sometimes he doesn't realize why you don't get what he gets.
Right.
And
it's like the Brainiac thing, right? Like Brainiac isn't this huge hulking sort of thing. He's a fucking brain.
Right.
And it's like they're ants to him in a way. Right. He's so smart that the human element doesn't factor in.
Right. And if you don't, and it's like, why don't you get what I'm saying? Like, why aren't you as smart as me?
Right.
He doesn't come out and say that, but he doesn't understand why you don't.
What makes sense to him doesn't make sense to everybody else.
And he doesn't get why it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that's what makes him an asshole. But he's not a toxic male.
No, but never in any of the comics is he ever.
But that's what that's kind of the rumor as to what they're making him, and that's why Sue is more so the leader, and she's the girl boss. And it's like, and that's why he's kind of cucked. And it's like, if you do that, that's a
not
recipe for failure. Well,
that's not Reed Richards.
Or it's not Sue Storm either.
Right. So it's like, it just, and again, I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't know, I don't know what we're going to get.
Right.
I really
don't. We don't.
But I think a lot of it's going to hinge on, whether they get the characters right. I think it's obvious, like, I know I said Galactus is really going to be what makes or breaks the movie, but what really is going to matter is whether or not the characters are the Fantastic Four. Because if they're not, it doesn't matter if you have the greatest villain in the world in Galactus, it won't make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, characters are going to make a big difference, because you can, we keep on, like I said, we keep on hearing, hey, we love, the portrayal of Miss Marvel. We love the portrayal of Yelena Belova. They're not making any money with those characters, so.
But they're not making people excited to go to the movies either.
Right. So that's why it's important that the characters are done right, and that's what made the success at the beginning, because you had the characters done right. And you're not, and I'm not saying you're not necessarily doing that, but those characters no one really cares about. Fantastic Four
Well, you're back to A-tier characters
Fantastic
again.
Four is, in essence, should be bigger than Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America.
Yeah, you're talking about A-tier characters.
Right.
And I think the reason that they aren't in the general public considered bigger than Iron Man and Captain America is because they failed to ever make a good Fantastic Four movie.
Exactly. And so you need that to happen with this movie in order to do these characters justice, because if you don't, going forward, no one's going to care.
But we'll see. I mean, like I said, about a week away on that. So,
yep.
All right. Well, with that one, let's put this one to bed.
Okay.
Jim, as always.
Yeah.
Pleasure. What do you got going on?
Just the usual, getting that art out every single week to put on the social media. So again, stop by the social media pages, check it out, give it a like, give it a comment, whatever you'd like. But, just making sure there's something there for everyone.
All right, guys, that's episode 115 of The Corner. CatalystCrafting.com is the main website. Catalyst Creations NH is the Etsy store. We're in the mall in New Hampshire. We're going to be at Granite State Comic Con in September. I know that's a ways away, but putting it out there now. But what do you guys think? Have you seen Damned? Is it good? Did it give you the skin crawlies? What did you think of Sinners? I mean, maybe not the best vampire movie, but still a solid film in and of itself, at least in my humble opinion. Have you seen Bastard? Because if you haven't, fucking watch it.
Yeah.
Okay? And what did you guys think of Superman? Is is this the kickoff that you were hoping for the DC, the new DCU? DCEU or whatever the fuck they're calling it, the James Gunniverse.
Yeah, the DCEU.
Whatever. And what are your thoughts? I mean, we're getting right up to that Fantastic Four release date. I mean, are you hopeful? Are you excited? Do you think they're going to nail it? Did they turn the ship around? Let us know in the comments. All right, crew. Catch you on the next one.